What's a fact that could save your life? If you can't find your kid in your house, don't search common places they would be. Search the most deadly places: pools, freezes, washing machines, and dryers. Seconds count, and if they are hiding under the table for an extra minute, who cares?
This is probably the most valuable comment I've ever read on Reddit.
These threads always get me anxious because I keep thinking, wow, this is so valuable. I bet I'll forget in 5 minutes.
Also, remember the golden rule for pool parties and family gatherings with kids. If everyone is watching the kids, no one is watching them. You need to specifically put someone on babysitting duty. You can switch people during the event, but it needs to be a specific person at all times.
We considered putting in a pool. Then I realized every time I couldn't find my kids, I'd be running out to the pool with my heart in my mouth.
I read a post on Reddit about a woman whose 3-year-old drowned. It happened so fast that she was still chewing the brownie they'd been sharing when she walked outside and saw him at the bottom of the pool. Drowning happens so incredibly fast.
My kid nearly drowned right in front of me in a quiet backyard pool. He didn't even look like he was struggling, but I saw a twinkle in his eye that he was in trouble. Drowning is silent and still. I'm Australian, so we are taught water safety from a very early age, so I thankfully knew the signs immediately. It was a very scary experience, and I'll never forget that twinkle in his eye. It still haunts me 15 years later.
Choking is silent. If they're coughing, they're not actually choking. If someone goes silent and starts pointing to their neck, start the Heimlich maneuver. Drowning is also silent. Quick at it because of upvotes for safety, especially if you have kiddos that like swimming. 5 stages to drowning. You're unconscious for 3 of them. Google shallow water blackout and understand how it works, not like regular drowning. Do not allow kids to have breath-holding contests. Don't drink alcohol, especially if you're the responsible adult at a pool. Just don't. No babies in hot tubs, ever, for any reason. A lifeguard's biggest blind spot is right at their feet, base of chair. Do not advise kids to swim near the lifeguard and be on the other side of the facility. They're easier to spot further away. In pools and water parks, shallow water is far more dangerous than deep water because of the risk of spinal injury. An adult can drown in 2 of water. Seriously, do not run at a pool. Ever. Do not jump in head first without a diving board and lifeguard present. Ever. Source: former guard instructor and auditor for big water parks. Second edit to add point 6 and include a link for 2. Yep, I almost drowned in open sea during a cruise excursion. I was near a boat surrounded by at least 30 others, and I was struggling. The thought never occurred to me to yell out for help. I was also paddling one-handed because I was stupidly carrying someone else's snorkeling mask. Even though I was at real risk of dying, I never did the obvious thing and dropped the extra gear and asked for help. Other people were never more than 15 feet from me. By a miracle, I made it back to the boat and was able to grab onto it to catch my breath. Be proactive, y'all. Look after each other in the water, and don't be afraid to ask someone if they need help. And if they don't respond to your questions, they probably most definitely need help. If your kid gets kidnapped, don't teach them to say help. Teach them to say something like, "Who the fuck are you? You're not my fucking dad. Fuck you." That's gonna turn a lot more heads and get you actual help a lot quicker.
Once someone tried to nab me, and I think the reason I'm alive today is because I said, "Who are you, and why do you want me to go with you?"
I've always taught my kids, 2 girls especially, that if anyone ever tried to kidnap them, they fight, yell, scream bloody murder until they escape or get knocked out. Never give up. Cause as much chaos as possible. Also, I teach them to always be hyper-aware of their surroundings. Pay attention to people and things going on around you. Always. Thing is, I was the child that just acted like that in public with my mom, and she was always worried that someone would think I was being kidnapped. Everyone ignored it or just gave her dirty looks for having an out-of-control kid. Other users have said they were saved by saying things along the lines of "I don't know you" and "Who are you?"
Carbon monoxide is odorless. Get a detector.
And test that detector regularly. My cousin had to evacuate his 4th-floor apartment due to carbon monoxide when his daughter was only a week old. Someone on the ground floor was using machinery without proper ventilation. The scary thing was that the 2nd and 3rd floor's alarms were dead and didn't go off. Thanks to his making sure his detector was working, everyone was fine.
If you fall through the ice, the dark spot is the way out. Edit: the sun reflects off the ice surface. The spot you entered has no ice or reflection, so will be dark, opposite what we would naturally think.
Also, if you fall to pour with the ice, make sure you grab the ice behind you to crawl back out, not in front of you. The ice behind you was obviously strong enough to hold you up until that point. My grandpa always tells me this, and his brother had unfortunately drowned this exact way when he was 6.
My dumbass was thinking, so put your arms behind you to get out, but I understand now. Of course, if you fall and get turned around in the water, it may be difficult. To add, I was told that when getting out, slide out like a seal and starfish your body to make a larger surface area, much like a snowshoe when walking in deep snow. Of course, I live in the desert, so what the hell do I know about ice and snow?
Just because someone rings your doorbell doesn't mean you have an obligation to answer.
An unopened door is a happy door.
Same with a ringing phone. My kids cannot stop answering my damn phone. I'm trying to teach them that my phone is my tool for my convenience, not anyone else's. You lose heat 20 times faster when wet versus being dry. Shed wet clothes.
There is a saying, cotton kills, because cotton when it gets wet will retain wetness and cling to your body, speeding up hypothermia. If you're doing anything where hypothermia is even a possibility, like camping or hiking in colder climate, having wool or synthetic clothing can save your life, and watch out for the cotton blends.
Summer camp counselor when I was in college. Gorgeous evening, must have been about 70F. We were out on the ski boat around dusk, helping someone learn to slalom. One gal decided she wanted a turn while the slalom guy needed a break, so she jumped in wearing her cotton street clothes. Was fine, got up and did a couple laps of the lake, got back in the boat and just started shivering, then became non-responsive and fell to the floor of the boat. Apparently, between the cooling temps around sunset, the wet cotton, and the wind from being pulled behind the boat, sent her hypothermic in about 10 minutes, while the rest of us were absolutely comfortable. Thankfully, we recognized the signs, got her stripped of her wet clothes and skin to skin with 2 other warm, dry people. Yes, that was awkward to kind of forcibly remove her clothing. And back to shore, where we got her in a warm environment and slowly, appropriately got her core temp back where it needed to be. Wet cotton is a risk of death, even in comfortable temperatures.
Teach your kids that if they're ever separated from you, to find any closest adult in emergency. The likelihood of the next person you would walk up to being a pedophile are slim to none, but the odds increase dramatically waiting for the first person to approach a child alone.
I was taught that if I were separated from my mom, to go up to a woman, especially one with kids, for help, far less likely to be a pedophile.
Find another mother. That's the phrase I was taught. It's also been suggested for really busy places with lots of people is to find people that are clearly part of a group, all wearing the same t-shirts or something like that. It increases the number of people willing to help. And since they are familiar with each other, they can communicate more easily if they separate to find help.
If someone comes at you with a weapon and tells you to go with them, do not. Never go to the second location.
Absolutely correct. Statistically, you are more likely to be killed at that second location.
If they kill you while trying to take you, it's probably faster and better than what they'll do to you at the second location.
Plus, they're more likely to get caught. If killing you where you stand was a good option, they wouldn't need to transport you to another location. Scream, yell, fight, or run. Whatever you do, don't go with them.
My mom told me from a really young age, if you get in the car, you are never going home. Never, ever get in the car. I taught my sons the same thing.
I was selling pest control just out of college and knocked on a guy's door. We had a long, friendly conversation. I can't remember if he purchased from me or not, but as I was walking away to go to the next neighborhood, my car was some distance away. He passed me with some others in his car, and he offered to give me a ride to my car. I said no, I'm fine. It's just a half mile or so down that way, etc. He kept insisting, over and over. I finally relented because I'm a fucking dumbass, and there were multiple people in this car, and they were friendly enough and in the neighborhood and all of that, but I remember being intensely terrified that I wouldn't ever see the light of day after today, but still got in the damn car anyway. Turns out he just wanted to reverse sell me on some pyramid scheme and talked to me about it the whole way to my car, about 1 minute or so is all, and dropped me off, no harm. But man, that was a lesson. Even when you really don't want to do some peer pressure and social niceties and whatnot, still can get you to do something that will end your life. I got lucky and vowed from that point forward that if I do not know the person, I am allowed to be rude and tell them under no uncertain circumstances that I am unwilling to do the thing they want me to do, which may endanger my life. Don't be like me. It may save your life. Don't keep saying no in a nice way. Say no nicely once, then say no very rudely once, and then refuse to engage after that. I have also found since then that mentally preparing yourself for situations by running through them in your head and confirming your reaction if it happens helps combat panic freezing immensely. While it's never exactly saved my life to do this, I have been able to think with a cool head under some stressful circumstances that other people were panicking about, simply because I had played the situation out in my brain imagination ahead of time. Signs of a stroke: fast, face drooping, arm weakness, speech slurred, time to go to the hospital. Edit, it's now be fast. Balance eyes, sudden vision loss or trouble seeing. Face arm, speech time. Thanks multiple commenters. Speed of response makes the difference between sometimes walks a little funny when tired and bedbound lump. If you know old people, you need to know how to spot a stroke.
Had a friend die suddenly from a stroke at 34. She was incredibly healthy. It happened actually right after a workout class. I then, 3 months later, had another friend, he was 38, have the exact same symptoms, but the doctors thankfully caught it. He had brain surgery and recovered in a few weeks. This was a reality check for me that life is fragile and can end at any moment.
They actually added 2 more letters. It's now be fast, adding balance and eyes, so a sudden loss of balance or visual impairment of any kind.
T also stands for time of onset. It's important to know because there is a window that antithrombolytic therapy can be administered.
Don't mix bleach with anything but water.
Used bleach to clean up cat pee, made mustard gas, and just about took out the entire family plus the pets. Spent the rest of the day outside while the house aired out.
I had to get on my mom for pouring bleach in the washing machine with cat pee-soaked blankets from foster kittens. We had to open all the windows and keep the kittens in the car while the house aired out.
Don't pull a knife or anything else out of a puncture. The object may very well be keeping you from bleeding out. Only a medical professional should remove something stuck in you.
And if you do pull it out, don't re-stab the person.
Elephants can outrun you. Elephants can outswim you. Elephants can throw objects at you. Elephants do not think you are cute. Elephants are very emotional. Elephants remember.
Elephants will show up at your funeral and stomp you out again if you have been leading poachers to their babies.
My dad told me a story about a friend of his that has since passed. The friend spent years living in Thailand part-time when they were younger. One day, an Asian elephant was in his way, so he slapped its rump to try to get it moving. It looked back at him with apparent offense, but went on its way. 10 years later, the friend is outside his house in Thailand, and an elephant approaches. It slaps him upside the head with its trunk and leaves peacefully again. The lesson is, don't be an ass to elephants.
A fishy smell in your house could mean there's an electrical fire. Fun story. When I was 19 and a co-op, I brought salmon into work and microwaved, leading to the evacuation of an office building because they thought it was an electrical issue. And that was the day I learned to not microwave fish at an office.
Don't pour water on a grease fire. Put baking soda on it instead.
And flour is not an acceptable substitute for baking soda. Found that out the hard way.
Dang. You may have just saved me in the future. I was thinking, baking soda? I feel like I've always heard flour. Thanks, man.
If you get caught in a rip current, don't fight it. It won't pull you under. People die because they panic, fight it, and get tired, and then drown. When you can, swim parallel to the shore out of the rip and then diagonally back to shore. Edit. I'm taking out the part about let it take you out because people bring up a point below that you should start swimming parallel immediately. I just meant you shouldn't fight it and swim against straight back to shore. That's not going to end well. Stay safe out there, everyone.
My parents had a second home in the Outer Banks for the majority of my childhood, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen someone get caught in a rip, someone try to help someone in a rip and get caught in it themselves. I have been in rips. You cannot win against the ocean. Also, your children should always have a real-life vest on at the beach, not a puddle jumper, not arm floats. I don't care how good a swimmer your child is. The ocean is a monster and swallows things whole.
The rocks from a river absorb water. When rapidly heated, it causes the absorbed water to boil much quicker than steam can escape the rock. This buildup of steam causes the rock to explode, sending hot rock fragments everywhere. So don't use rocks from a river to make a fire pit.
I live in Canada. This only applies to cold climates. They are not dead until they are warm and dead. There are many cases where somebody got stuck outside and froze, then doctor revived them.
However, the phrase is more specific to cold water drownings. The odds of restoring a pulse on patients is greater in cold water drowning patients. Additionally, the odds of ROSC are better for pediatric patients in these scenarios. While there are some cases of people being frozen due to dry cold exposure and being revived, most cases are limited when the tissue is frozen, making chest compressions and medication administration impossible.
If you get bit by a wild animal, get yourself to a hospital ASAP and tell them that. You don't want rabies to set in.
You're only at risk of getting rabies if it's a mammal. Birds, fish, reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates cannot carry the disease. Source, CDC edit. To address repeat comments, yes, you should still get the bite treated quickly, regardless of what bit you. You're just not going to get rabies if your assailant wasn't a mammal. I did not know that opossums and other marsupials have a body temperature that is too low for the rabies virus to survive. Nor did I know that Australia is rabies-free, though I am aware of the multitude of other ways you can die there. Bats are mammal, not bird. If one bites you, get treated for rabies.
If you're at the beach and the water recedes, suddenly run and get to the highest ground you can find. A tsunami is on the way.
As someone who was there in person for the Boxing Day tsunami in 2004, I now know this. I didn't at the time, and like many others, I just stood in complete bewilderment as the ocean suddenly receded halfway to the horizon. To this day, it was the most amazing, dumbfounding, and eerie thing I've ever seen. Needless to say, I got lucky to be able to tell the tale. If I ever saw it again, I'd know to run. But at the same time, I'm not sure I'd be able to look away. It was terrifyingly mesmerizing.
My mom always taught me to count rows between your seat and the emergency exit. So if you can't see where you are going, you can feel where you are going. I'll never forget that.
Never walk, ski, or snowboard near trees when there is heavy snow. There is something called a tree well that sometimes forms under trees where, if you fall in, you will become impacted by snow, often upside down, and suffocate to death. There's a POV video of a guy who fell into a tree well, and miraculously, another guy found him in time and saved him. Absolutely terrifying stuff.
Do not, I repeat, do not lay in the snow or walk home alone in the cold when you're far too drunk. I had a friend die from hypothermia and alcohol poisoning because she wanted to take a nap in the snow. Edit. The typical, I did not expect this, but wow, it's crazy how many people have experienced this and had some close calls. I am so thankful for all of your lovely comments. She would be very happy that I mentioned this.